It's been a pretty busy day, a busy week here in Keene, New Hampshire, as always. Of course, I just got back from doing fair outreach, which I've talked about to some extent on the show, but I haven't done a recap of what happened over the last week. And so just want to do that real quick here because the fair, the county fair here in Cheshire County, was an amazing outreach experience this weekend. And that's because we were able to give out over 500 Bitcoin flyers in the 5 days of the fair. In the last 2 days, it was like 200 flyers a day, basically. So we probably hit 550 to 600 flyers over the full 5 days. I don't have an exact count because we went with a fairly large stack of fancy color, like cardstock flyers, and we burned through those by Friday evening. I printed out 400 more at that point, got on Staples' website and did a rush order so I could pick it up the next morning. 400 more flyers. So I know that number, and we burned through all 400 of those in 48 hours.
That's amazing because New Hampshire's already one of those Bitcoin meccas where, there's some of the largest meetup groups, some of the most items that are ordered online through Bitcoin are shipped to New Hampshire. So you're doing an awesome thing by helping the mecca grow.
Was kind of just recapping some of the things that have gone on here in our beautiful little Keene, New Hampshire, with Free State Project participants and other liberty activists getting out there and getting the word out about Bitcoin. In fact, I've talked to multiple people when I was at the outreach booth that I had set up over the last several days. 5 days straight is what the county fair runs here in Cheshire County, New Hampshire. And I recommended ExpressCoin a bunch of times because when I would actually get into conversations with people, there's different levels of interaction. So the kind of the basic level of interaction is handing someone a flyer, and then somebody who's more interested, answering some of their questions about Bitcoin. And of course, one of the questions is, how do I get them? Well, I had a Bitcoin vending machine right there, but kind of the holy grail of this outreach booth is to get somebody to get a Bitcoin wallet on their smartphone and buy Bitcoins from the Bitcoin vending machine, which is a very difficult task. So only did that a few times over the 5 days. But some people were still interested enough to kind of ask about it. So they wanted to do their own research. Not everybody's comfortable with just pulling out their wallet and putting money into a strange machine on the side of the county fair. But ExpressCoin.com is a way for people to get Bitcoin as well as Dogecoin, which, by the way, was the second most popular cryptocurrency, at least by mention of the people who came by the booth.
Really?
It was mentioned 3 times by 3 different people, just randomly. I was just talking to them, just kind of pitching Bitcoin out to them, and then they would say something like, "Do you have Dogecoin?" Or some sort of Dogecoin-related comment.
Wow.
Yeah, and those people with the Dogecoin weren't really interested in Bitcoin either, which was kind of weird.
That's what's so cool about Dogecoin that I've noticed. It sort of brings people to the idea of cryptocurrency, sometimes without even noticing that Bitcoin exists. Like there's a Dogecoin conference, or DogeCon, that happened out in California.
That sounds like it'd be fun to attend.
Oh, yeah. It was, read some of the reports about it. It was a blast. The pizza and stuff. But that's what these people were into. They didn't care about Bitcoin, some of them. And that's really cool that there are so many different cryptocurrencies now that people can have their own niche and not even care about some of the others. The leaders, like Bitcoin.
So I've been talking about my outreach experience over the past week, which was phenomenally positive. I mean, the responses from people about Bitcoin were very interested. Some people were, curious.
Well, it's coming, and people have been hearing about it.
They have.
I think that
but a lot of people haven't heard about it.
On Sunday, I asked on the way out of Home Depot, "You take Bitcoin?" I'm trying to do this now every time I have an interaction. If you're taking money, I'd like to talk to you about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And the lady's like, "Not yet, but I bet you we will someday."
Oh, that is encouraging to hear.
Now, this was one of the cashiers.
Yes, she also liked my Stormtrooper shirt. So
that's cool.
Let's say she's
a
nerdy.
rebel.
Yeah.
I did this also, Mark, at the fair.
I got it from $6shirts.com. It says "Support the troops" above it.
Yeah, I did this also at the fair. Now, I didn't do it consistently enough because, for instance, and maybe I should have done it more consistently. There's like the Mr. Smoothie. It's a place that makes smoothies or whatever. And I'm just thinking, they're throwing around drinks. I don't know if that's the safest place for an electronic device. And so I didn't ask them about whether they take Bitcoin, and I probably should have. But
it's better than touching dirty paper money.
That's a good point. I did ask the vegetarian food truck. There's like this vegetarian food truck thing here in Keene, and they were super interested in it. And they even came over to the booth later on and asked a bunch of questions. In fact, I'm going to go follow up with them because they actually work here in Keene normally, but they were at the fair for the last several days. And so I'm going to stop by there this week and get them hooked up with a wallet and buy something from them with Bitcoin. So that'll be fun.
That would be really cool. It'd be cool if you could also show them how it could work for their booth. If you had a paper wallet or a paper QR code that people could scan as they came up, and you say, hey, you could have one of these. And then a little device that's already connected to that wallet, you can see that payments went through immediately.
Well, something I did later on, there was a guy running an ice cream booth there at the fair, and I'd seen him walk by, and I'd pitched him with do you have any Bitcoin yet? And, he just walked by. But then another time I realized who he was. I realized he was working there. And so I changed my pitch. I said, hey, have you considered taking Bitcoin for your business? And he stopped at that point and had a conversation with me where he had some good questions that he asked.
That's the key for Bitcoin is I think that there's more self-interest at stake. Like a business owner can get it. He's like, oh, hey, this is money to me. We're talking money now.
Oh, as soon as you mention the credit card fee, that you're cutting fees down to next to zero, that's like a heads up for a Bitcoin or a business owner.
It's different things.
Big difference.
It's different things for different people. Like for some, it's freedom. For others, it's an escape from the state, and then for others, it's just, hey, I could make more money by cutting out fees.
So it was so great to get people, positively responding to Bitcoin. And, of course, I had to change my pitch over time. I'd never done Bitcoin outreach like this. I have flyered people for Bitcoin, like downtown a little bit, but I'd never done a real consistent kind of pitch everybody that walks by on Bitcoin thing. And so I wasn't as good on Wednesday as I was on Sunday. There weren't as many people there on Wednesday either, but it was definitely not as polished in the beginning portion of the week with like how I would pitch the idea to people. And ultimately, I did really kind of nail that down. And I got to give credit to Christopher Cantwell from ChristopherCantwell.com. I've done a lot of outreach booths in my time, and I've volunteered with I've had a lot of people volunteer with me because, as I said,
you're the expert at pretty much any booth, and then you teach the rest of us how to do it.
Yeah, he was great. Chris Cantwell was as good as I was at this, and I don't want to just go pat myself on the back, but I've done a lot of damn outreach booths, and I'm pretty good at being a carnival barker, talking to people because you got to get their attention. You can't, if you're going to do an outreach booth, and I recommend you do it if you can afford to go and set up a booth at the fair to bring the ideas of freedom to people. It's a fun experience that I think is worth having, and it's not that expensive. We set this booth up for $400. And that's less than $100 a day. That's not a whole lot of money.
Certainly could be worse.
To market to what was probably 50,000 people over the 5 days would be my guess, or 30,000 to 50,000 people.
What's the cost of your propaganda?
It's pretty cheap. 5 cents a flyer for full color printing or something like that. Next to nothing. The Carney recap for the last several days as I played Carney at the local county fair, pitching Bitcoin to folks rather than throwing whatever balls at ducks or trash cans, whatever the Carney Bunko games are. There's a really cool book my dad had when I was growing up called the Bunko Book, B-U-N-C-O. It's actually pretty hard to find now from what I understand, but it showed how all of the Carney games actually work, like how much of a scam they are, like how the scams are operated with these Carney games at the fairs. Fascinating stuff. So anyway, Bitcoin, of course, not a scam. It's the real deal. Although some people were kind of suspect. They had, of course, heard the news about Mt. Gox going down, and Bitcoin aficionados know that the Mt. Gox story is basically just the story of a failed business, a failed bank. But the way the mainstream media made it look like, the way they made it sound.
Bitcoin's done.
And either they did this on purpose or they did it through ignorance. But either way, they did it. They made it sound like, it's over for Bitcoin. They came from Japan over at Mt. Gox, and now it's a failure. Well, no. Just one business went under, just like a bank can go under that does business with dollars. And so I got the chance to explain this to some of the people and correct some misinformation. And it was great. As I mentioned earlier, we had over 500 Bitcoin flyers handed out to people. Business owners are interested in taking Bitcoin who weren't that interested before hearing our pitch at the fair. And part of the pitch that I found was very effective was mentioning Dell Computer, Wikipedia, which, by the way, Wikipedia, I don't know if you heard, but they just started taking Bitcoin within the last week or so.
Yep.
So those are like the two biggest heavy hitters.
Overstock.com is pretty huge.
That's $1 billion compared to Dell Computer's $47 billion. But yeah, I would mention Overstock here and there. But Dell Computer, I mean, if you're walking by, unless you are a Luddite, you probably know what Dell Computer is. And if you've been online, you've probably been to Wikipedia at some point. So I figured those are two biggies. And then I would also mention a couple of the local businesses that would take it here in Keene, which is Corner News, kind of a local newspaper / head shop. There's also a hair salon. So whenever the ladies would walk by, I'd always say, hey, you can get your hair done at Motusua Hair Salon. And it was interesting because a lot of people who worked, people are walking by. They're going somewhere. They're not at the fair to come see your booth. And so you've got to get them to stop and talk to you, or at the very least, stop and take a flyer. And there were a number of people whose interest level changed, and it was visible, when they heard me mention who takes Bitcoin. And then it became something that was worth listening to.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal because, we're sort of a gregarious creature. Humans are a bit of a pack animal, and it matters what the leaders of the pack are doing. So, yeah, if the people at Dell are taking Bitcoin, perhaps I am a dumb butt for walking by these people in this that are just trying to give me some information.
Yeah, and so, for some people, they kind of opened up their ears when they heard Wikipedia. Others opened up when they heard Dell, and others opened up when they heard that a local business was taking it. And it was just an interesting experience.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.